Naughty Dog's Uncharted series is one of the most beloved franchises in gaming. The first game felt like a rough draft that showed a lot of promise, which led to the studio creating a sequel that many still argue is one of the greatest games ever made with Uncharted 2. In my last two videos, I explained why Uncharted 1 was better than people give it credit for, and how the second game becomes the magnum opus of the entire series. But of course, history shows that there were still two more mainline entries left. While the fourth game is often remembered as the emotional swan song of the franchise, Uncharted 3 has always felt like the middle child, the one that gets overshadowed by the rest. Now, that doesn't make this game bad in any means, but once you start looking behind the scenes and see what was going on during development, you begin to understand why this game ended up dividing fans. From repeated story beats to bullet sponge enemies to a bigger spectacle that didn't always hit the same heights, Uncharted 3 became something of a tragic masterpiece. Welcome to episode 11 of the Naughty Dog Takeover. Today, we're surviving the desert with Uncharted 3, Drake's Deception.
Okay, watch and learn.
Oh, I'm learning all right.
Ellie, stay up, come on! What? Is that it?
You asked for it.
To all my returning viewers, welcome back to the channel, and to everyone who is new, welcome aboard. I am the Retro Phantom for short, and every week on this channel I talk about games that made our lives epic and fun. Right now we are slowly closing in on the Naughty Dog takeover, with The Last of Us and Uncharted 4 at Thief's End. Then later this year we'll have The Last of Us Part 2 and Uncharted Lost Legacy coming to the channel, ending the year out. After the Naughty Dog takeover, we're heading straight to Gotham for the Batman Arkham takeover. And after that, we'll be diving into the Spyro the Dragon takeover. And it all leads to one of my biggest series of this year, Street Fighter, especially with the movie dropping this year. So if you heard a franchise you like and want to stay tapped in, feel free to hit that subscribe button. If you enjoyed this video and want to support the channel, the best way to do so is by liking and hyping the video, because it really helps smaller channels like mine in the YouTube algorithm. And lastly, if you're feeling generous, you can always buy me a cup of coffee. The link is in the description. With that said, let's dive into this. Now, if this is your first Naughty Dog video on the channel, I'm going to give you a quick recap of how we got here. But if you want the full story, feel free to check out the Naughty Dog Takeover playlist. We're now 11 episodes deep. If you're already caught up, feel free to skip ahead. I'll give you a moment to do that now. Back in the 1990s, during the height of the console wars, Sony entered the gaming industry with the PlayStation, and like any console, they needed a mascot. That search led them to Naughty Dog. Founded by Andy Gavin and Jason Rubin, the studio created Crash Bandicoot, a franchise that helped define the PlayStation era and establish Sony as a true competitor in the gaming space. But as the PlayStation 2 approached, Naughty Dog moved on from Crash and introduced a new IP, Jak and Daxter. The first game was bright, colorful, and full of life, but as the gaming audience began to grow older, so did the tone of their games. With Jak 2, the series took a darker, more mature direction, heavily influenced by the rise of games like GTA 3. That shift proved successful, even if it came with a reputation for brutal difficulty. But behind the scenes, Naughty Dog was going through changes of its own. Jason Rubin would eventually leave the company, leaving Evan Wells to step into a leadership role. And during this transition, another key figure began to rise within the studio, Amy Hennig. After work on Jak X, she would go on to help shape the future of Naughty Dog in a major way. Because as the PlayStation 3 era approached, Naughty Dog was once again ready to reinvent itself. Instead of continuing with Jak 4, the studio made a bold decision to create something entirely new. That project would become Uncharted. Taking inspiration from pulp adventures, cinematic storytelling, and games like Gears of War, Naughty Dog introduced Nathan Drake, a more grounded human hero compared to the larger-than-life characters of the past. And when Uncharted Drake's Fortune released in 2007, it marked the beginning of a new era for the studio. The game pushed the PlayStation 3 with its visuals, animation, and storytelling, laying out the foundation for what Naughty Dog will become known for in the years ahead. But while Uncharted 1 was a strong start, it was just that, a start, because what came next didn't just improve the formula, it perfected it. Now with the release of Uncharted 2 Among Thieves in 2009, Naughty Dog didn't just build on what they had, they elevated it. Everything was bigger, everything was smoother, everything felt more alive. From improved gameplay mechanics to cinematic storytelling to set pieces that felt like you were playing through a movie, Uncharted 2 became the game that defined not just the franchise, but the PlayStation 3 era itself. Critics praised it, fans loved it, and for many, it was the moment Naughty Dog reached the top of the industry. A studio that once helped Sony find its identity was now helping to define it. But while Uncharted 2 was everything for Naughty Dog, something in the team was slowly brewing.
Dear PlayStation, I've been playing Uncharted 2 Among Thieves, but my girlfriend won't stop watching because she thinks it's a movie.
This is pretty common, Jason. I mean, just look at this game.
You know, you got Nathan Drake's epic gunfights.
Impossible escape scenes and a plotline filled with betrayal. Give her an hour or so, she'll know it's a video game.
It's been 2 days.
Ready, honey?
Yeah!
Yeah, I'm gonna file this under not an issue.
Uncharted 2 Among Thieves, rated T for teen.
The first official news about Uncharted 3 broke in December of 2010 through an article by Entertainment Weekly when they visited Naughty Dog studio in Santa Monica, California. In that piece, they briefly mentioned the upcoming game while discussing other productions at the time, stating, "The fighter should be shooting just as the next game in the series entitled Uncharted 3 Drake's Deception hits stores late next year." EW recently visited the Santa Monica, California offices of Uncharted's developer. Now at this point, it had only been just over a year since Among Thieves' release, but that didn't matter. Fans were ready, because coming off a game like Uncharted 2, one that many people were calling one of the greatest games ever made, the idea of another entry already being in development was exciting. And this wasn't just quiet hype either. This was an announcement that even made its way to mainstream television, being featured on Late Night with Jimmy Fallon, where the game's release date was officially revealed.
With Evan Wells and Christoph Balestra, the designers of what is often called the greatest video game franchise ever, the Uncharted series. You're about to see the worldwide debut of actual gameplay from Uncharted 3. I'm excited about this, but first, explain Uncharted 3 is the third of the series. You had a big weekend. You were at the Spike Video Game Awards.
Yeah, finally we're going to talk about the game. And yeah, because we've been working on it for 1 year now, and so it was just time to just redeem the audio game.
Christophe, you are French?
I'm French chef.
You're French, yes.
Yes.
And how long have you been over here? We're
8 years.
8 years.
8 years.
What was the accent? You got to tell Kong he loves accents. I only need probably. You know, it's great, but you announced the release date is November 1st, 2011, which is 11111. 11. Very good. That's better. Yeah. It's a lot of ones. Evan, tell us about Uncharted 3. What's different than Uncharted 2?
Well, this time we're going to the desert, sand, following in the footsteps of the famed Lawrence of Arabia.
Yeah.
And ultimately looking for the lost city of the Last of the Sands.
Oh, very good. Now, people saw the trailer of the video games and they were like, I don't believe it. That looks fake. And that's what we're about to see. So that's the thing about this game. Uncharted 2 is playing this. My wife, who's not really into video games, came into, a 36-year-old man's room. And while playing the video game, she was like, what is this? She thought it was a movie. She was like, this is bizarre. You got to see this. If you haven't played Uncharted 2, you should get it now because you have a year to save out the dough for Uncharted 3. But let's take a look at Uncharted TV shows. I am. You'll play first and then you'll pass it over?
November 1st, 2011. 11/1/11. A date that was clean, memorable, and very intentional. So understand, from early on, Uncharted 3 wasn't just another sequel. It was a scheduled event, and Naughty Dog had no intention of missing that moment. Now, when it comes to development, this is where things start to shift, because Uncharted 3 was not built under the same conditions as the previous games. Behind the scenes, Naughty Dog was beginning to split. For the first time, the studio was dividing its focus between two major projects, and while Uncharted 3 was moving forward, another game was quietly beginning development. Now, if you look at previous Uncharted titles, they were built through collaboration. Drake's Fortune was directed by Amy Hennig and co-written alongside Neil Druckmann and Josh Shear. Among Thieves followed a similar structure with that same core team, while Bruce Straley stepped in as co-director. So these games weren't just the product of one voice, they were the result of a team. But when you get to Drake's Deception, that changes, because this time, Amy Hennig stood alone as the sole writer. And that's a major shift. Now, she still had the support on the directing side with Justin Richmond stepping in as co-director, but when it came to the story, this was her vision, her narrative, her structure, her responsibility. And while that gave the game a more focused voice, it also came with pressure, because now she wasn't just following up Uncharted 2, she was doing it alone. And when you're coming off a game that defined a generation, that's not just a challenge, that's an uphill battle.
Obviously the teaser is kind of a big deal, so a lot of my energy is going into that. But yeah, it's a little terrifying, to be honest. There's a lot more pressure now on us than I think there ever has been. So.
Making Uncharted 3, there's a ton of pressure. It's a crushing amount of pressure, to be honest. And some of it's self-imposed and some of it's just naturally imposed by the circumstances. When you know that you've got a big fan base out there that's like waiting for any scrap of information and can't wait for the next game, I'll tell you, there's something to be said for just being under the radar and, you know, being kind of the dark horse that nobody's heard about yet.
We want to meet and beat people's expectations, but I mean, frankly, we're just putting a lot of our own pressure on ourselves to do a better game than we did last time.
We're never satisfied anyway, so it's like, yeah, pressure from the outside compared to what we have inside, piece of cake. It's nothing.
So you have to just have the faith that whatever instincts got you to this point will continue carrying you through as long as you keep listening to them.
To make a long story short, Naughty Dog as a studio was now split. Neil Druckmann and Josh Shear would go on to lead half of the original Uncharted 2 team into developing The Last of Us, which we'll be diving into in the next video. But even with that split, the job still had to get done, because Uncharted 3 wasn't just another project, it was a deadline. And the most important thing now was staying on schedule while building anticipation for what was next. The first major step in that process was the teaser, which dropped in 2010.
All men dream, but not equally. Those who dream by night, in the dusty recesses of their minds, wake in the day to find that it was vanity. But the dreamers of the day are dangerous men. For they may act their dream with open eyes to make it possible. This I did.
Uh-huh. Well, that's all real pretty, but what the hell's it mean in English?
It means be careful what you wish for. It might just get you. Perfect. Here we go.
And just like before, this teaser wasn't just about showing the game, it was about setting the tone. Now, one of the main goals for the developers this time around was to make the game feel more open without actually turning it into an open world experience. Co-creator Justin Richmond spoke on this direction, making it clear that Naughty Dog wasn't trying to chase that trend, but instead evolve what Uncharted already was. He stated, "It's still up in the air how much gameplay we're going to let you wander around. It will probably feel more open than the other games have, for sure. But we're never going to let you just ride 1,000 miles off into the middle of nowhere. Ultimately, the feel we want to get is, yeah, you're lost in the desert, so it needs to feel like that. But it's not going to feel open world." So the goal wasn't freedom in the traditional sense. It was the illusion of it, making players feel like they were exploring something vast while still guiding them through a tightly crafted cinematic experience.
Games start simultaneously in the hands of the designers and then in the hands of the writers, Amy specifically. And so they're kind of in parallel. Amy is writing the story and the designers are designing levels. So sometimes a level is designed long before we have any clue what the story is.
It's a very creative environment, and I think in all creative environments you can't just start 2 years before the project is supposed to be released and say, okay, here's a blueprint of what it's supposed to be. Everyone go off, do their thing, and then we'll meet back here in 2 years and it will be perfect. No. That's not how it works.
One of the things that we wanted to do for this project was to improve the way that artists could work with the engine. It was a bit rigid, and we were foreseeing a lot more sort of action scenes and in the cinematic events and all of these things, which require a lot more sort of specific control over the environment.
We've expanded the scope in pretty much every way. Every feature we could think of that would make the game better, we tried it. Most of the time we kept it in. A couple things we tried and didn't like, but in general we've just made everything much bigger and better.
Now, when it came to the technology behind Uncharted 3, Naughty Dog wasn't trying to reinvent anything from scratch. They were trying to elevate what already worked, and one of the biggest focuses this time around was making the game feel more like a movie. According to Naughty Dog's community strategist, Arnie Meyer, the development process for Uncharted 3 was handled almost exactly like a Hollywood production. The team used full performance capture, recording both motion and dialogue at the same time on a dedicated stage at Sony Studios. So instead of piecing scenes together later, actors were performing everything in real time. And that's what gave Uncharted its signature feel. Those natural conversations, those fluid animations, those moments that feel less like gameplay and more like you're watching a film play out. But visually, this is where things got interesting, because while Uncharted 2 made a massive leap over the first game, Uncharted 3 wasn't about to make another huge jump. It was about refinement. The team used an evolved version of their engine to improve physics, animations, and environmental effects. Things like fire, smoke, water, and most importantly, sand. Because this time, the desert wasn't just a backdrop. It was a system. Sand shifted. It moved. It reacted to the player. And according to Arnie Meyer, it became one of the biggest technical challenges the team had to overcome. Now, despite pushing the PS3 to its limits once again, even Naughty Dog admitted something important. The leap from Uncharted 2 to Uncharted 3 wasn't as dramatic as a jump from the first game to the second, and that's simply because they were already near the ceiling, but that didn't stop them from going bigger. More assets, more motion capture, more environments. But as we get closer to release, this is where things start to get real. Because remember, Naughty Dog wasn't just working on one game anymore. They were split. Half the studio was focused on Uncharted 3, while the other half was building what would become The Last of Us. And that deadline of November 1st, 2011 got closer and closer, and that split started to show. To make matters worse, Naughty Dog had to make critical decisions. They pulled developers off The Last of Us team and brought them in to help finish Uncharted 3. An emergency move, because at this point, the game was not ready. And despite the extra help, things were still falling apart. We're talking about a build of the game that was nearly unplayable. Major bugs, invisible enemies, entire levels not loading, especially on older PlayStation 3 hardware. Even things like ocean rendering incorrectly. This wasn't just small issues. The game was on the verge of shipping broken. And internally, even leadership started to notice. Vice President Christian Gerling saw firsthand just how unstable the game had become. And at that point, the team knew they were running out of time. So what did they do? They crunched hard. And in the final moments before release, the team put together a critical patch just 2 days before launch, a last-minute fix that quite literally made the game playable. Now think about that. Nearly releasing a broken mess, all because of split focus, pressure, and time. And after 2 stressful years crunching through development, Uncharted Drake's Deception would drop on November 1st, 2011, making their deadline.
Hey, I'm Nathan Drake. If you're the adventurous type like me, then get in on the Subway Taste for Adventure for a chance to win epic trips and exclusive access to Uncharted 3. Get your code on 30-ounce drinks today. Subway, where winners eat. Now.
Here's a quick spoiler alert. As I'm about to tell the story behind Drake's Deception, there will also be light spoilers for Among Thieves and Drake's Fortune. Now, if you're not a fan of spoilers, please advance this video to the gameplay overview section as seen on the timeline below. Let's dive into this. The game opens with Nate and Sully walking into a bar for what's supposed to be a simple exchange. As they arrive, they are joined by Charlie Cutter, while Talbot, the mysterious right hand of the real person in charge, steps in to oversee the deal. The trade is simple. Francis Drake's ring for a briefcase full of cash. Talbot opens the case showing stacks of money, and for a moment it looks like the deal is actually going through. Nate hands over the ring, but almost immediately realizes something is off. The money is fake, so Nate takes the ring back, and that one decision immediately turns the entire room against him. Before long, Nate and Sully are fighting off thugs all throughout the bar in one of the most chaotic openings in the series. Chairs are flying, tables are breaking, and the whole scene feels something straight out of a WWE ring. Eventually, Nate and Sully make their way to the kitchen, fighting off even more enemies before finally escaping through the back door. But once they get inside, that's when we meet the real person behind everything, Catherine Marlowe.
Come here. Typical bloody Yank, all talk. Hey. You've had enough, haven't you, mate? Don't. Stay down.
Hello, Victor.
Kate?
Still wallowing in the gutter with your protege, I see. Not very dignified for a man of your age.
Should have known you'd be behind this. Oh, careful now. Wouldn't want you to melt.
Same cocky little shit. So fearless. I wonder what you're really afraid of. Not bullets or blood or broken bones. No. You get off on all this, don't you? Cheating death. Or not.
No.
Mr. Sullivan, I won't harm your precious boy. I merely want what's mine.
Give me that back.
Cutter!
Oh, no. Oh.
Shut up!
You fool!
Oh, you're bloody welcome, Your Majesty.
Marlowe, we have to get you out of here.
Oh, come on. They're a right pair of arseholes. What?
We With Nate and Sully seemingly gone for good, the story suddenly flashes back to a 15-year-old Nathan Drake in Cartagena, Colombia. Already obsessed with the legacy of Sir Francis Drake, young Nate sneaks into an exhibit called El Pirata Francis Drake in search of Drake's ring. Eventually, he finds it inside a display case on the second floor. As Nate studies the artifact, he sketches it down in his journal and writes down information about it, already showing the curiosity and obsession that would define him later in life. But while he's there, another familiar face enters the room. Victor Sully Sullivan. Nate quickly hides and watches Sully unlock the display case with a special key before eventually leaving. Not long after, museum security catches Nate and throws him out into the streets. Outside, Nate spots Sully again and begins following him through the streets of Cartagena. Sully eventually enters a building where Nate spies on him getting another cabinet key made. Soon after, Sully meets up with Marlowe, and this is where we see young Nate doing what he does best: pickpocketing. As Marlowe and Sully stop at a merchant stand, Nate steals Sully's wallet and walks off, but Sully catches him almost immediately. The two have a small exchange, with Sully surprisingly complimenting Nate on the theft attempt, even if he admits Nate was a little sloppy and telegraphed too many of his moves. Sully threatens to call the police unless Nate gives him the wallet back, but Nate clearly isn't worried, because just like Sully, he doesn't trust the cops either. He eventually gives back the wallet, but not before secretly keeping the key. Later that night, Nate sneaks back into the museum after hours and uses the stolen key to access Francis Drake's ring. Alongside it, he also discovers a cipher disk which reveals a hidden message when activated. But before Nate can escape, Marlowe, Sully, and several agents suddenly arrive. Nate is forced to hand over the cipher device, but when Marlowe demands the ring, he refuses. That's when Marlowe attacks him. Sully steps in, giving Nate the chance to run. What follows is one of the most best chase scenes in the game, as Nate runs across the rooftops while Marlowe's men chases him throughout the streets. At one point, Nate is cornered by one of the agents and even grabs a gun, but he hesitates, and before he can decide what to do, Sully steps in and shoots the man himself. The two escape together, and just like that, a legendary friendship is born.
Relax, kid. We're safe here. Go on. Suit yourself. You don't want it.
What do you want from me?
A little gratitude would be nice. I did just save your ass back there.
Thanks. But what's in it for you? I mean, you're a crook, right? You gotta have an angle.
You are one piece of work, kid. What's your story, anyway?
Look, mister. No offense, but I don't even know you.
Easily remedied. Victor Sullivan. This would be the part where you introduce yourself. Okay. Suppose you tell me what's so special about that ring.
It belongs in my family. I'm just taking it back.
Passed down from Francis Drake himself.
That's right.
I don't know how to break this to you, kid, but Drake didn't have any heirs. No children.
Well, not with his wife back in England, anyway.
Okay, good point. Let me see it. Come on, kid. If I was gonna take it from you, I would have done it by now. Thank you. So, what is this? Parvis
Sic Parvis Magna. It means greatness from small beginnings. That was his motto.
Yeah?
You see, Queen Elizabeth gave it to him in 1581, when he got back to England after circumnavigating the globe. That's when she made him a knight.
Well, you sure as hell didn't learn that on the streets. How's a kid your age know Latin?
The nuns sort of insisted on it.
So, like a boarding school?
That's a nice word for it.
Okay, then. So what was all that business with the ring and that astrolabe thing back there?
Why don't you tell me? You're the one working for him.
Look, kid, a client wants something, I obtain it, for a price. I don't ask any questions. It's just a job.
Look pretty friendly to me.
Yeah, well. Anyway, I'm pretty sure I'm fired.
Okay, look. First of all, that was no astrolabe. It's some sort of decoding device. Check this out. On his way around the world, Drake sailed through the East Indies. Only he says that it took him 6 months to get from here to here.
Yeah, so?
So it doesn't add up. He was way too good a sailor for that. It would have taken him a month, tops. He was hiding something. Something big.
How big?
Like secret mission from the Queen big. Like millions in plundered treasure that hasn't ever been recovered big.
That big?
That big.
And that decoder has something to do with it?
I would bet my life on it.
Oh, swell. And Marlowe's got it.
Won't do her much good without the key.
So it's a stalemate then?
For now.
So you still haven't told me what your name is?
And you still haven't told me what you want from me.
Okay. Look, you got talent, but you got a lot to learn. You stick with me and I'll teach you a few things.
Thanks. But I'm doing just fine on my own.
Yeah, clearly. What do you say we try this again? My friends call me Sully.
Nathan Drake. Nate.
Drake, huh? Okay. I see great things in our future, kid. Great things.
Back in the present, we return to the alleyway where Nate and Sully are lying on the ground, seemingly dead, while Marlowe drives away. But of course, things are not what they seem. Charlie Cutter suddenly appears and wakes the two up, revealing that they faked their deaths in order to throw Marlowe off. As sirens begin getting closer, the group realizes they need to move fast before the police arrive. So Nate, Sully, and Cutter make their way across London, climbing rooftops, construction sites, and vehicles until they finally meet up with another familiar face from among thieves, Chloe Frazier. Chloe leads them to her van, where she hands everyone a flashlight and a silenced pistol before guiding them towards a warehouse where Marlowe's car was last seen. Once inside, the group notices wet tire tracks, but no car. Nate eventually discovers a hidden entrance in the wall, leading them into an underground network of tunnels beneath London. As they move deeper underground, they run into several of Marlowe's men before eventually coming across an old Victorian-era train station hidden beneath the city. And this is one of those moments where Uncharted really shines, because the environment itself tells a story. You have old train tracks, massive archways, abandoned platforms, and statues of knights lining the walls. The deeper they go, the older everything becomes, until eventually they discover an ancient underground library hidden underneath the station. The library is huge. High ceilings, stone walls, medieval weapons decorating the halls, and despite being hidden for all these years, it's still being used by Marlowe's people. From the upper floor, Nate, Sully, and Cutter watch as Marlowe attempts to use Francis Drake's ring with the cipher device. But when it doesn't work, she realizes she's been betrayed. Talbot and Marlowe quickly escape, leaving their men behind to stop Nate and the others. After fighting through the guards, Nate finally uses the ring himself and discovers the message Francis Drake left behind.
Ugh. Nate, focus. We haven't got much time here.
Yeah.
What are you...
My God, do you know what this is?
It's a book, mate. There's a lot of them in here. It's a library.
It's not just any book, wise ass. Belonged to T.E. Lawrence. You know, Lawrence of Arabia.
Yes, I know who he is.
This was mailed from Dorset on the day of his motorcycle accident. May 13th, 1935. They must have killed him once they got their hands on it.
They?
Yeah, they, them, whoever these people are.
Oh, what a lot of rubbish. It was an accident.
Witnesses saw a black car run him off the road.
Guys.
Oh, what? So it was like a big cover-up?
Maybe.
Nate.
What?
That thing that you have been waiting 20 years for?
Right. Okay. Here we go. L O H D N. Huh.
What is it?
It's long hidden.
What? Shush. No shit, long hidden. Are you kidding me?
No offense, mate, but your ancestor was a right arsehole.
Just shut up. It's an anagram. Golden Hind. The Golden Hind.
Drake's ship.
Yes. It's a clue. It's gotta be something hidden in this room. All right, spread out. See what you can find.
Nate eventually finds the figurehead that once sat on Francis Drake's ship, but just as he's about to pull it down, more guards rush into the room. Nate falls, crashing down with the figurehead, which breaks apart on impact. Inside, he discovers the hidden map, and when Nate looks at it, he realizes something huge. Francis Drake, his supposed ancestor, really did travel to Arabia. With that discovery, the group quickly tries to escape the library, fighting through wave after wave of Marlowe's men as they make their way back through the old Victorian train station. Only now, the enemies are no longer after the cipher device. They want the ring. Nate, Sully, and Cutter eventually escape through a hidden door behind one of the statues and continue through an access stairway before finally emerging into a more modern section of the London Underground. From there, they make their way to the abandoned Artwood station, fighting through even more enemies across old platforms and train tunnels. Eventually, Chloe arrives with the van, and the group barely manages to escape. After everything happened beneath London, the crew finally returns to their hideout to figure out their next move.
So then the guy says, well, you better tickle mine too, because now I gotta catch the goddamn thing.
Cheers.
To a job, well done.
Yeah.
Are you going to join us, darling?
Yeah. Well, the map proves it. Drake didn't screw around in the East Indies for 6 months. He sailed straight through and headed to Arabia.
Right.
But here's where it gets interesting. You see this mark? This is John Dee's signature.
Who the hell's John Dee?
John Dee, one of Queen Elizabeth's closest advisors. Everybody knows that.
Yeah, he was a great mathematician and navigator. Okay, way ahead of his time. He's probably the one who invented that.
Seriously into the occult. I mean, in like a really creepy, dark
Yeah, see,
way.
he signed all his letters to the Queen with this symbol, meaning he was her eyes.
The original 007, you see, look, 007.
Not really that relevant.
So it was John Dee who sent Drake to Arabia.
Yeah, it looks that way. Dee and Elizabeth.
And Walsingham.
Great, but what for?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And this is where T.E. Lawrence comes in. See, before Lawrence became Lawrence of Arabia...
Great film.
He was an archaeologist. And even when he was just a kid, he was obsessed with history. Everything to do with knights and the Crusades. And he traveled all over, documenting every Crusader site he could find. It's all in here.
All right, you've lost me completely, kid. What the hell has this got to do with Drake?
I'm getting to that. See, after the war, Lawrence said that if he were ever to go back to Arabia, it would be to search for this place he called the Atlantis of the Sands. Now, the legend crops up over and over again under different names. Ubar, Aram of the Pillars, the City of Brass. But the story is always the same.
Oh, city of immeasurable wealth, destroyed by God for its arrogance, swallowed forever in the sands of the Rubel Khali Desert.
Right here.
Well, I like the immeasurable wealth part anyway.
And you think this is what Elizabeth and Dee sent Drake after?
Oh, yeah. And more importantly, it's what Marlowe is after.
So Wait, if Drake was on a mission from the Queen to find this place, why all the secrecy? I mean, it looks like he went to a lot of trouble to hide whatever he found, even from Her Majesty.
I don't know. Oh, I'm sorry. What was that?
No, hang on a second. Because if you recall, the last time we went halfway around the world searching for a lost city, things got more than a little dicey.
Yeah, but this time we have the upper hand. I mean, look, Drake only had half the clues. Lawrence only had half. We have both. And Marlowe has nothing.
Small problem. The Rubel Kali Desert, 600 miles across. The Bedouin go around the damn thing.
And even if we knew where it was, which we don't, we will die trying to find it.
Just hold on. You see these symbols here?
Yeah? Looks like Sabaean
script. Right. Look, the Crusaders were searching for the same lost city 1,000 years ago. But out of all the sites Lawrence documented, only 2 are marked with these symbols. One in Syria, the other in France. No, you 2 are going to Syria. We're heading to France. Look, we track down these clues. We find Lawrence's lost city. I'm sure of it.
Well, and then what? How are we going to get across 600 miles of impassable wasteland?
It's in the middle of the desert. So technically, it'd be about 300 miles. Look, I don't know. We'll figure it out.
We burn that bridge when we get to it, eh?
Exactly. What do you say?
What the hell?
Let's do it.
The story then takes us to France, where Nate and Sully find themselves deep in the jungle, searching for another clue. After climbing through ruins and making their way across the environment, they eventually arrive at an old chateau. Once inside, Nate helps Sully gain access to the building, and together they solve a puzzle involving a group of knights. That puzzle opens a hidden tunnel beneath the house. As Nate makes his way through the underground passage, the atmosphere immediately changes. He starts hearing strange noises, the tunnels are covered in webs, and before long, giant spiders begin crawling all over the walls. Nate avoids them as best as he can and eventually makes his way back outside, where he spots Talbot and several of his men searching the area. After fighting his way through them, Nate reunites with Sully and the 2 continue exploring. Soon after, they come across one of Talbot's men, except something is wrong. The body looks heavily decomposed, as if it's been there for years, even though that should be impossible. They just arrived. Still, Nate and Sully push forward and eventually find a trapdoor leading even deeper to the underground. Down below, Nate solves another puzzle moving across symbols on the floor, which opens a hidden passageway. Behind it lies John Dee's secret laboratory, and inside, Nate discovers a message written in Enochian script. Using Drake's cipher ring, he decodes it. The altar guards the entrance to the underworld, so Nate and Sully push the altar aside, revealing another hidden chamber beneath the lab. Using a torch to guide their way, the duo pushes deeper to the underground until they eventually reach a locked door to a puzzle involving symbols scattered across the room. Once they solve it, they finally discover the body of Lord Godfrey, and this is where the story starts becoming more dangerous.
This is it. Here, hold this, will you?
Sure.
Look, it's some sort of amulet. There's something written here.
Gonna do this right on top of Lancelot, huh?
Uh-huh. It's in Sabaean script.
Well, that'd be from ancient Yemen, all right?
Yeah, exactly where Francis Drake would have landed back in the 16th century. Could be the name of a city?
Yeah, from 3,000 years ago. Without the rest of that inscription, we still don't know where to look.
Well, let's hope the other half is in Syria.
Yeah, and the Cutter and Chloe can find it.
I wouldn't recommend that.
Shit.
Nice work, gentlemen. Harris, please relieve Mr. Drake of the artifact.
Yeah, Harris. Come get it.
Now, it's hardly worth dying over, is it? Your friend doesn't think so.
Come on, Nate. What is that? Oh my God. What the hell? Stay in the light.
Jesse, quickly!
Get him off me! No! Get him off me!
Your torch seems to be dying out. Good luck with that.
God, what a dick.
Right?
We gotta find a way out of here fast. Stay close.
Now trapped in the tomb with spiders surrounding them, Nate spots a wall they can climb. From there, both he and Sully begin running from room to room, desperately trying to escape the swarm while searching for sunlight. Eventually, they find a staircase leading towards a large open window, and once they climb out, they finally lose the spiders. But the danger is far from over. Nate and Sully try to escape the chateau. Nate suddenly hears movement. Talbot and his men are already there, and they are setting the entire building ablaze. What follows is one of the most intense sections in the game, as Nate and Sully fight their way through Talbot's men while the chateau burns down around them. Walls collapse, fire spreads everywhere, and the whole place slowly turns into a death trap. After barely making it out alive, the two stop to catch their breath. And this is where we get one of the most emotional moments in the game. Sully starts questioning whether it's even worth continuing to chase Marlowe in the Atlantis of the Sands. But Nate does not want to hear it. He snaps at Sully, telling him stop acting like he's ready to lay down and die. It's a rare moment where Nate's obsession starts to get the better of him. But once things calm down, Nate realizes something important. If he and Sully were almost caught by Marlowe and Talbot, then Chloe and Cutter are in danger as well. The duo quickly heads out, taking a flight to Syria. When they arrive, Nate notices they still have a few hours before the tour buses show up, and more importantly, the chain locking the entrance has already been cut, meaning Talbot and Marlowe have already been there. But because everyone still thinks Nate and Sully are dead, the two realize they have one advantage, the element of surprise. Nate believes they can sneak in, rescue Chloe and Cutter, and get out before anyone notices. Sully is a little less confident, even joking about how easy that sounds. But eventually, the two catch up with Chloe and Cutter, and for the first time in a while, the core group is back together.
What the hell?
Why aren't you in France?
We're rescuing you?
From what?
We thought you were captured.
Or worse.
Wait, why?
Talbot ambushed us at the chateau. It was a trap.
Yeah, we figured they must have followed you too.
Well, yeah, they're definitely here.
Yeah, no kidding.
So we might want to think about keeping it down a little.
What happened to you two? We've been trying to reach you for over 24 hours.
Oh, right, I need to top up my minutes.
You're using a prepaid phone?
Mate, those contracts are a complete rip-off.
What? Mine's broken.
Again?
Look, just forget all that. You'll never guess what we've discovered. I've got it all in here. Not only did Elizabeth's spy network stretch all the way over here, but they were all part of some sort of hermetic secret society. The British Occult Secret Service, the School of Night, the Hellfire Club, the Order of the Golden Dawn, they're all connected.
So John Dee...
And Francis Walsingham and Walter Raleigh and even your mate Drake, they were all in on it. But for them, it was all about the power. Controlling their enemies through espionage, deception, fear.
Hey, guys.
Wait. So Marlowe and her crew
are the same secret order 400 years on.
Will you cut to the goddamn chase, please?
Yeah, we really need to keep moving.
Sure. Here, look. Quod est superius.
Est sicut quod est inferius. As above, so below.
That's the key to all of this.
We need to get to the highest point of this castle.
Thus, the stairs.
Well done.
The group eventually makes their way to the top of the castle, where the symbol from the writing is located. From there, Nate and Cutter head to a viewing platform where another puzzle is presented. As they work through it, Talbot appears and secretly drugs Cutter.
No. Give it to me.
Good. Now the journal. Thank you. Don't trust Drake.
How's Charlie? Who knows?
No. Shit.
He's gone. How in the world?
Hey, Charlie, you okay? Huh?
Charlie?
What the hell? Look at this.
Man, what kind of Black Ops bullshit is this?
Let's just hope he didn't have a big dose.
Oh, no.
Oh, shit.
Easy now. Look at me. Charlie, right here. Come on, we gotta move now, okay?
Don't touch me. Get away from me.
All right.
No one's touching you, Charlie.
What the hell was in that dart?
Your face is peeling off.
Well, whatever it was, he's tripping balls.
Charlie, listen. Hey, you're okay.
I won't let you take me.
Hey, nobody's taking you anywhere.
Just come with us, okay?
Yeah.
Oh, no. The floor's melting.
Choosing the middle path, the Core 4 continue moving through the Citadel, while Cutter is still trying to recover. But as they make their way through the narrow corridors, it becomes clear that something is wrong. Cutter is still feeling the effects of whatever Talbot gave him, and before long, he snaps. Out of nowhere, Cutter attacks Nate, and the two begin fighting. Eventually, Cutter gains the upper hand and starts choking Nate out, forcing Sully to pull his gun on him. For a moment, it looks like Sully's about to take him out, but Chloe steps in and somehow manages to snap Cutter out of his trance before things go too far. And honestly, it's one of those scenes that remind you of just how dangerous Talbot really is, because he's not just physically dangerous, he knows how to get into people's heads. Afterward, Cutter apologizes, realizing how close he came to getting shot. The tension in the group is high, but they still have to keep moving. So the team continues deeper into the ruins, solving another puzzle involving water, while once again avoiding more of those dangerous giant spiders. Eventually, Nate uses a massive globe mechanism to unlock another hidden passageway, which leads them to a knight's tomb similar to the one they found in France. Inside, Cutter discovers an amulet and asks Nate for the other half, since Talbot already has it. But Nate, being Nate, already drew his missing piece in his journal. By matching the two together, the group finally learns where they need to go next. Yemen. As they leave the tomb, Cutter keeps the piece of the amulet with him, but before the group can escape, they hear Talbot's men nearby. Using a collapsing wall, they manage to take out one of the henchmen, allowing Cutter to grab his weapon, and as they finally make it back outside, they come face to face with Talbot once again.
Drop your weapons.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Well then, what a dilemma. We seem to be equally matched. Until the rest of my men show up, that is.
We can wait.
Oh no. Guys?
Charlie?
Oh, God damn it.
Now that changes things a bit, doesn't it? Now drop your guns.
Why don't you go?
Cutter, shoot him.
No.
Wait. Just stop. Okay?
Now that's better, isn't it? Shoot him.
You son of a
Cutter,
bitch.
pull the trigger. My pleasure.
The group is suddenly forced to run for their lives, escaping through the burning ruins without any weapons. Everything around them starts collapsing. Nate, Chloe, and Sully manage to jump across a gap, but the bridge gives out beneath Cutter. Talbot and his men quickly catch up to him and begin attacking him while he's trapped. During the struggle, Talbot steals the other half of the amulet, and shortly after, Marlowe arrives as well. And instead of simply leaving Cutter behind, she decides to burn him alive. The entire area erupts in flames, forcing Cutter to jump from the ledge below. He survives, but badly injures his leg in the process. While checking on him, Chloe discovers a tarot card in Cutter's pocket with the Tower on it, adding another strange layer to Talbot's obsession with mind games and illusions. Now at this point, the easy option would have been to leave Cutter behind, but Sully refuses. Instead, Sully carries Cutter through the ruins while Nate and Chloe fight off Talbot's men all throughout the burning citadel. And honestly, moments like this are what makes the group work so well, because despite all the arguing, sarcasm, and tension, when things get bad, they do not leave each other behind. Eventually, they make it outside and escape aboard a local bus, leading them to contact another familiar face.
Okay, the bus. We're taking the bus.
Well, that won't attract any attention. Warning. Not worth the price of admission, folks.
Here we go. 1, 2, and a boy.
Yeah.
All right here. All right, I got this. You take care of him.
Here they come.
Sully, get us out of here! Looks like we lost him.
All right, I'll find some place to ditch the bus.
Great. You doing all right?
Oh, fabulous.
That was too close.
He'll be okay.
No, I mean the whole thing. Just isn't worth it, Nate. Let this one go.
Oh, no. You can't just give up. If you let these bastards win, after this, I will never bloody forgive you.
Don't you worry, Charlie. There's no way I'm letting them win.
What is it with you? What are you trying to prove?
I'm not trying to prove anything.
Right.
So what's the plan, kid?
Guess I'm going to Yemen. You up for it?
Of course I am.
All right, we gotta find a quick way in. No hassles.
Think I might know someone we could call?
Who? Oh, no. No.
You got a better idea, I'm all ears.
What about... No. Fine. Make the call.
Elena Fisher, foreign correspondent.
Hey, Sully.
How you doing, sweetheart?
Oh, no. Sorry, that's sort of frowned upon here.
Oh, right.
You two can hold hands, though.
How are you, Elena?
Good, thanks.
You look great.
So, against my better judgment, these permits will get you through most checkpoints.
Okay, great.
Oh, and I shouldn't be worried about what's in those bags, right?
Of course not.
No.
Yeah. Not yet, anyway. All right. Remember, you're journalists now. So try and act respectable.
Think you can handle that?
I think she's talking to you.
So what exactly are you two reprobates up to?
It's just a little historical research.
Right, so that explains the big rush.
Exactly.
No cursed treasures?
Nope.
No diabolical warlords?
No.
You are the worst liar.
What?
You are.
Oh, come on, we're not gonna start
Excuse
this,
me.
are we?
Just-
The car, where is it?
Oh, it's over there.
I'll just take the bags and meet you.
Nate.
You're still wearing it.
Yeah, I am. It helps in this part of the world.
Oh, really?
Seriously? Don't flatter yourself. I see you're still wearing yours.
What? Oh, yeah.
That's what this is all about, isn't it?
You don't understand. I finally proved it. Drake lied about his route through the East Indies. 400 years ago, he came here.
Why, Nate?
That's what we're here to find out.
No, I mean, why this obsession? I'm just worried.
I can take care of myself, all right?
not talking about you.
What, Sully?
He would go to the ends of the earth for you, Nate. Just don't ask him to.
Come on, that's not fair. What is that even supposed to mean?
All set? You could just drop us at the edge of the city, that'd be great.
Not a chance. You two are my responsibility now. I'm not taking my eyes off of you.
Now in Yemen, Sully, Nate, and Elena finally reunite and make their way through the city's busy marketplace. At first, things seem calm, but eventually they run into a street blocked off by armed patrols. Elena tries talking to the guards and convincing them to let the group through, but they refuse. So instead, the group takes another route. They move through the side streets and alleyways until they reach a locked door. Sully points out that they are stuck again, but Elena speaks to a nearby merchant in Arabic and convinces him to open it for them. As they continue through the city, they come across even more patrols, forcing Nate to find another way around by climbing up the side of a building. Eventually, the group reaches the rooftops, where Elena notices several ancient-looking buildings in the distance that would have already been centuries old even during Francis Drake's lifetime. But before they can focus on that, Sully spots Talbot in the distance. Nate immediately decides to follow him because Talbot still has Cutter's notebook. Using the rooftops of Yemen, Nate chases Talbot through the city until Talbot disappears into the market area, forcing Nate to go down to street level. But the moment Nate enters another building, Talbot attacks him. The two fight, and Talbot eventually throws Nate through a window. Still, during the struggle, Nate manages to steal back Cutter's notebook. Unfortunately, that victory does not last long, because the second Nate gets back to his feet, he finds himself surrounded by Marlowe's men. A huge fight breaks out, and after Nate defeats them, Sully and Elena finally catch up with him. The three eventually make their way into a room with a well in the center. Elena starts asking questions about who these people are and what Cutter has to do with any of this. So Nate and Sully finally explain everything. Nate realizes that the well is actually where they're supposed to end up. So despite Sully being nervous about going down there without weapons, he eventually goes back to buy guns from a nearby merchant. While Sully is gone, Nate and Elena begin arguing. Elena questions why Nate keeps chasing this treasure, especially when it comes to putting everyone around him in danger. She admits that she is tired of all of it. The treasure hunting, the danger, the constant obsession. She wants to move on. Sully eventually returns with two sawn-off shotguns, one for himself and one for Elena, which immediately ends the argument. The group then opens the hatchet to the well and climbs down. Below, they find a room with 3 different pathways, but the center path is blocked off. So they solve puzzles on the 2 side rooms until they finally unlock the middle passage. At the end of it, they discover a celestial map, and using it, Sully memorizes the location of Aram of the Pillars. But before they can leave, the spiders come back again. The group is forced to run for their lives as the spiders chase them out the ruins. Once outside, Elena questions Nate one more time. She asks why it can't just be enough to just know where Aram is, as long as Marlowe doesn't find it. But before Nate can answer, Talbot's men ambush the group. Another huge firefight breaks out. Nate, Sully, and Elena can barely escape, but they do, and they escape back to the streets. But this time, Nate is hit with the same kind of dart that Talbot used on Cutter. Almost immediately, Nate begins hallucinating. He panics, loses control, and runs off into the streets, leaving Sully and Elena behind. As the hallucinations get worse, Nate follows Talbot's voice through the city until he finally wakes up sitting at the table across from Marlowe.
Welcome back. I don't recommend making a scene. You're not exactly here legally, remember? Greatness from small beginnings. Beneath that cocky exterior, you're still the same scared, filthy little runaway, aren't you?
Skip the mind games. You don't know me.
In fact, I suspect I know you better than anyone, Mr. Drake. Of course, that's not your real name, is it? But we won't dwell on that. Mother commits suicide. Father surrenders son to the state at the age of 5. Entrusted to the St. Francis Boys' Home. It's also Dickensian. Oh. Don't worry. She's of no interest to us. Unless, of course, we need to apply a little pressure.
What do you want from me?
Well, as much as it pains me to admit it, I need your help to find Victor Sullivan.
Right.
We already know he has the coordinates to find Iran.
How do you know that?
You told us, Nathan. It seems your loyalty isn't as firm as you'd like to think it is. What about his?
What? Wait. What are you trying to pull?
Nothing. It's just that, well, we've had you in our clutches for quite some time now, and he hasn't exactly mounted a rescue. He didn't rescue you back in Cartagena either. He just saw something he could exploit.
I know what you're trying to do.
Trust me. Victor is only ever in it for Victor. It's a cold, hard fact. I discovered it 20 years ago. I'm surprised it's taken you this long to figure it out.
You're wasting your time, lady.
Fair enough. But ask yourself, when he scooped you off the streets of Colombia 20 years ago, did he save you from that life? Or did he just doom you to this one? Ah, excellent. Well, we've located Sullivan on the other side of the city. I'm sorry, Nathan. It seems you've been removed from the equation.
Nate immediately flips the table and takes off after Talbot, chasing him through the streets while drawing the attention of the local police. What follows is another long chase sequence across rooftops, alleyways, and crowded streets until Talbot finally stops running and decides to fight. Nate nearly beats him too, but right before he can finish him off, he gets knocked out and unconscious from behind, and the man responsible is Ramesses. When Nate wakes up, he finds himself tied to a chair and held captive by Ramesses and his crew. During the conversation, Ramesses explains that Marlowe hired him to get rid of Nate, but because he claims to be a nice guy, he's willing to let Nate live if he gives up the location of Iram of the Pillars. To make matters worse, Ramesses claims that he also has Sully in his custody and threatens to kill him if Nate refuses. After leaving Nate with his men to be interrogated, Nate manages to break free by smashing the chair he's tied to. From there, he fights his way through Ramesses' pirate crew across a massive ship graveyard. Eventually, Nate boards Ramesses' main ship, the Seaward, determined to rescue Sully and get out before it's too late. This whole section is basically one giant action movie. You're climbing across sinking ships, fighting pirates, jumping across broken platforms, and trying not to fall into the water the entire time. But eventually, Nate makes it to the hold at the Seaward, where he finally sees what looks like Sully tied up in the distance. But when he gets closer, he realizes it was all fake, a trap. Ramesses never had Sully at all. The entire thing was just meant to waste Nate's time while Marlowe got closer to finding Aram. The second Nate realizes the truth, he's ambushed by more of Ramesses' men. During the fight, Nate shoots Ramesses, who stumbles away wounded. Nate then grabs a grenade from one of the pirates and throws it. accidentally hitting a pile of propane tanks. The explosion tears a hole in the side of the ship. Water starts flooding in. The ship begins to tip over, and suddenly Nate is trapped inside a sinking boat while still fighting enemies. This is honestly one of the craziest action sequences in the entire game. Nate climbs through the flooding hallways while the ship slowly rolls onto his side. Eventually, he reaches the main hall where Ramesses appears one last time, dying from his gunshot wound. Before going down, Ramesses shoots the windows, causing even more water to rush into the ship. Nate barely escapes in time, jumping away just as the seaward sinks beneath the ocean. The next morning, Nate wakes up on a nearby beach and eventually makes his way back to Elena's apartment.
Get out of here. How convenient. How's it going?
All right, yeah. Yeah, I understand. Can you call me if anything changes? Oh my God. I gotta go. Nate.
Thought this was frowned upon.
Shut up. I really thought you were gone this time. Are you okay?
Is Sully?
He's alive. Thank God. But they've got him.
What? Where?
They're in a convoy headed into the desert.
Oh, we gotta go.
Oh, whoa. No. No, it's not that simple. Come on. They've got at least 2 days head start on us, so we'll never catch up.
We gotta try.
Listen, I've got a plan. But we're only gonna get one shot at this.
Okay.
They're loading up a cargo plane at the airport. They're gonna make a supply drop to the convoy.
Well, we gotta be on that plane.
Exactly.
You do realize that means parachuting in, right?
We've done it before.
Not well. Okay. I could really use a glass of water, and then we ought to get going.
No. My contact at the airport says that the plane isn't taking off until dawn. In the meantime, just try to get a couple hours sleep.
I don't think that's a good idea.
Come on. All right? He'll call if anything changes.
You're really gonna do all this on your own, huh?
For Sully? Yeah.
I like the way you think.
I know.
No, I mean, that's...
I know what you mean.
I'm sorry.
I know.
To get Sully back, Nate and Elena make their way outside of an airport where they have to move through several warehouses before reaching Marlowe's plane. As they get closer, Nate suddenly stops Elena. He tells her to leave before it's too late. At first, she does not want to go, but after some convincing, Elena finally agrees and drives away. Now Nate is on his own. He runs towards the plane, but before he can reach it, a gate closes in front of him and Marlowe's men spot him. Nate is forced to sprint across cargo boxes and the runway while a massive plane takes off. At the last second, Elena returns in a car to help him. Nate jumps into the vehicle, then leaps onto the landing gear of the plane as it rises into the air. Once on board, Nate crawls through the cargo hold and ventilation shafts trying to find Sully, but eventually he is spotted by one of the giant brute enemies. The two end up fighting on the open cargo ramp of the plane. After a brutal fistfight, the loose cargo breaks free and slides out the back of the aircraft, taking the brute with it. Unfortunately, Nate almost gets dragged out too. He barely manages to grab onto a cargo net holding a truck and climbs his way back to the plane. From there, another huge firefight breaks out between Nate and Marlowe's agents. Meanwhile, the plane itself is falling apart. Because the cargo ramp is still open, the enemies begin overheating and eventually catch fire. Things only get worse when an explosion tears a giant hole in the side of the plane. Several enemies get sucked out into the sky, and then Nate does too. Luckily, he manages to grab onto a crate in midair and pulls his parachute, safely landing in the middle of Rub al Khali Desert. Once Nate lands, he searches through the wreckage of the plane for water, food, or any kind of supplies, but he finds nothing, no map, no water, and no way out. So Nate is forced to wander through the desert completely alone. Eventually he finds a well, but it's dry and filled with sand. He keeps walking through the day and through the night, becoming more exhausted and dehydrated with every step. Soon, Nate begins hallucinating. He sees Sully, he sees water. He even starts hearing Catherine Marlowe's voice reciting lines from The Wasteland. At one point, Nate realizes he's been walking in circles when he stumbles back into the same dry well again. As more time passes, Nate becomes completely drained. Eventually, he spots what looks like a settlement in the distance and desperately makes his way towards it. But when he finally arrives, it's nothing but a ghost town. Still, Nate refuses to give up. He searches for anything he can find and eventually comes across another well. This time, there's a small puddle of water inside, but it's filthy and undrinkable. Nate continues moving through the town until he finds a locked door. Using the last bit of strength he has left, he breaks it down, only to discover that the building is filled with Marlowe's men. Despite being dehydrated, exhausted, and barely able to stand, Nate still somehow manages to fight through them. He pushes through multiple firefights, taking down dozens of enemies while stumbling through the abandoned settlement. However, Nate gets overwhelmed. He is attacked from all sides, including snipers pinning him down from a distance. For the first time in a while, Nate realizes he might not make it out alive. And just when things look hopeless, a group of Bedouins suddenly arrive to save him.
English?
What? English, I speak English. No. Don't shoot me. Please don't shoot me.
تعال عدو شيله
يلا تعالوا.
Nate teams up with the Bedouins and helps wipe out the rest of Marlowe's men in the settlement. After one of the Bedouins is killed by a sniper, the group finally escapes, and later that night, they regroup at Salim's camp. There, Salim asks Nate why he and Marlowe's people are even out in the middle of the desert. Nate explains that Marlowe is searching for Aram of the Pillars and that Sully is the only one who knows exactly where it is. And once Marlowe gets what she wants, Nate knows Sully is dead. Salim then tells Nate the legend behind the city. According to him, King Solomon captured the spirits of jinn and sealed them away inside a brass vessel and buried it deep beneath the city. But after that, the city became cursed. Salim believes that if Marlowe reaches the city and unleashes whatever is down there, it would not just kill them, could destroy everyone. So Nate and Salim decide to work together and go after Marlowe's convoy before it's too late. The next section becomes one giant horseback chase through the canyons of Rub al Khali. Nate and Salim ride after Marlowe's convoy while jumping between horses, trucks, motorcycles, and armored vehicles. Nate is leaping from horse to truck, fighting enemies on moving vehicles, blowing up motorcycles, and trying not to get thrown off in the middle of the desert. At one point, Nate gets knocked off his horse by one of Marlowe's men, but before the enemy can kill him, the guy accidentally gets run over by one of the convoy trucks. Salim comes back for Nate, and together they continue the chase while the rest of the Bedouins arrive to help. Eventually, they catch up to the front of the convoy. One of Marlowe's men is about to shoot Nate, but then Sully finally appears. Sully punches the man out of the vehicle and jumps over to a nearby crane truck. Of course, things cannot be easy because a giant brute immediately grabs Sully, forcing Nate to jump on board to save him. After another huge fight, Nate gets back into his horse, and just before the crane truck crashes into the canyon wall and falls off a cliff. With the convoy finally destroyed, Nate and Sully finally get a moment to catch their breath and properly reunite. Salim then introduces himself to Sully and warns them that they have to keep moving before Marlowe reaches Ubar. And first, Nate hesitates, but Sully agrees with Salim because whatever Marlowe is after, it's not treasure, and it needs to be stopped. The group rides deeper into the desert until they are suddenly hit by a massive sandstorm. Salim says that the city is somewhere inside it, but as soon as they enter the storm, Nate and Sully get separated from Salim and the rest of the Bedouins. The horses become too wild to keep going, forcing Nate and Sully to continue on foot. Inside the storm, they run into another group of Marlowe's men and a huge firefight breaks out. The sandstorm makes it even worse because you can barely see what's in front of you, and on top of that, there are mounted turrets and armored trucks firing at them from the distance. After clearing out the area, Nate and Sully finally reach the entrance to the Lost City. They solve one final puzzle, open two giant doors, and standing before them is the Atlantis of the Sands. And without even thinking about it, Nate immediately takes a drink from one of the fountains in the area.
Incredible. This is how the city could thrive all the way out here. The whole place must be fed by an underground spring. It's clean. It's amazing it's still running after all these years.
Now that's a hell of a thing. What?
No. No. Please. Sully.
Completely consumed by rage, Nate chases after Marlowe and Talbot deeper into the Lost City, but before he can reach them, he is forced to fight more of Marlowe's men. Only now they appear completely possessed by Jinn. These enemies are much stronger than the normal soldiers, throwing explosive fireballs and moving in ways that make them feel more like supernatural monsters than actual people. Once Nate defeats them, he rides the elevator down to continue chasing Marlowe and Talbot. Eventually, he catches signs of Talbot, but Talbot disappears around the corner. And then things get really strange. Suddenly, Nate finds himself back in Cartagena. He's running through the same streets from his childhood while being chased by giant spiders. Nate jumps across rooftops and runs through alleyways trying to escape until he eventually reaches the rooftop where Sully once saved him as a kid. Only this time, things are different. Instead of Sully saving him, Sully is the one pointing the gun directly at him. Whether Nate shoots Sully or waits for Sully to shoot him, the result is the same. Nate snaps back into reality inside a realm of the pillars. Back in the city, Nate is immediately attacked by even more Jinn enemies that pour out in the elevator and fill the courtyard. After fighting through them, Nate spots Sully again in a nearby room. But when Nate follows him, Sully disappears behind a sealed door. To open it, Nate has to pull a lever that fills a large pool with water. As the room fills, Nate notices that his reflection begins moving by itself, helping him turn giant wheels that open the door. Then suddenly, a bright light appears inside the water. Nate walks towards it, only for his reflection to grab him and throw him through the roof. When Nate wakes up again, the room has completely changed. Now it's filled with dead bodies of the people who once lived in the city. From there, Nate heads down the underground water system where Marlowe and Talbot are waiting. By this point, Nate has completely lost track of what's real and what's not. And then he spots something that convinces him the hallucinations have finally reached their breaking point. A ghost walking in the ruins.
That you, kid? Oh, thank God. You all right? Man, I had a hell of a time. What's the matter with you?
How do I know you're real? Ow!
That real enough for you? Don't ever point a gun at me again.
I saw them shoot you. Right after the eclipse.
What? What eclipse? Look, kid, you went nuts right after you drank from that fountain. It's the water. That's what destroyed the city. Not the wrath of God. The whole water supply is tainted with some sort of hallucinogenic agent. Must have drove everyone mad.
That's what Marlowe and Talbot are after.
Oh, man, yeah. Remember, Cutter said they controlled their enemies through fear. This'll do it. In spades. But, wait, it doesn't make any sense. How do they think they're getting the water out of here?
No, it's not the water. It's what's in the water.
Come again?
All right, listen, just bear with me for a sec. Salim told me that Aram was cursed when Solomon imprisoned the evil spirits of the jinn inside a vessel of brass and then cast it into the depths of the city.
A genie in a bottle.
I know, it sounds pretty crazy.
So you reckon that's why Elizabeth and Dee sent Francis Drake out here in the first place?
Yeah. It wasn't treasure they were after. It was power. Only once Drake realized what he'd been sent for, he abandoned the mission. He lied to the Queen, told her he didn't find anything, and then hid all traces of his voyage. Rewrote history.
Well, who are we to argue with Sir Francis? What do you say we head down there and end this thing? Once and for all.
At this point, Nate and Sully finally realized the truth. Marlowe and Talbot were never after treasure. They were after the power hidden inside the city's poisoned water. The same water that caused everyone in Aram to lose their minds. The same water that destroyed the city in the first place. Nate and Sully fight their way through the last of Marlowe's men until they finally reach the bottom of the city. There, they find a massive underground pool where the brass vessel is being lifted out of the water by a crane. That vessel is the source of everything. The poison, the hallucinations, the curse of the city itself. So Nate and Sully split up to stop them. Sully keeps Talbot busy while Nate goes after the vessel. During the fight, Talbot throws Sully into the water and nearly kills him, forcing Nate to dive in and save him. While underwater, Nate shoots the crane holding the vessel in place. The shots send the vessel crashing back into the water. At the same time, the bullets destroy several support beams holding the city together. And just like that, the entire city starts collapsing around them. As Nate and Sully try to escape, Marlowe and Talbot catch up to them one last time. But before either side can do anything, the floor beneath them gives way. Marlowe falls into quicksand. As she sinks, she grabs onto Nate and begs him to save her. Despite everything she has done, Nate still tries to help her. But while reaching for her, Marlowe grabs onto Francis Drake rings and pulls it down with her. Nate cannot save her, and Captain Marlowe disappears, beneath the sand.
Mono! I can't reach! Come on, kid. I'll pull you up.
Nathan! Drake! Are you worthy of the name? Earn this, as Francis earned it from Elizabeth. Prove your greatness.
I got nothing to prove.
Hurry! Give me a hand! You can't just let her die! The hell he can't! Nate, give me your goddamn hand! Here! Grab it! What the hell are you doing?
I can't.
It's no good! Get the hell out of there! Hold on! No! Nate! No! Come on! Run!
With the city collapsing around them, Nate and Sully are forced to jump from one crumbling platform to another in a desperate attempt to escape. Everything around them is falling apart. Walls are collapsing, floors are breaking apart. The entire lost city is literally sinking into the ground. But even with all that happening, Talbot is still not done. The final fight between Nate and Talbot breaks out while the city crumbles around them. At one point, Talbot throws Nate off a ledge and nearly kills Sully, but Nate climbs back up just in time and shoots Talbot before he can finish the job. With Talbot finally dead, Nate and Sully continue running until they reach the exit of the city. Outside, they are reunited with Salim, who helps them escape the desert before the city disappears for good. Later at the airport, Sully gives Nate back his wedding ring, the same ring Nate thought he had lost earlier in the game. Elena tells Nate that she's sorry he lost Francis Drake's ring, but Nate tells her that he traded it for something better. Then he reveals that he's wearing his wedding ring again. Nate and Elena embrace, finally putting everything behind them. And Sully, being Sully, reveals that he managed to get another airplane to replace the one they destroyed 4 years earlier from Drake's fortune. And just like that, the story comes to an end.
Hey, hold up a minute, Nate.
You okay?
Yeah. Yeah, I just got something needs saying, that's all.
All right. What is it?
Look, I had a lousy father, a lousy childhood. I hit 40, I figured I was never gonna have a son of my own. Hell, I never wanted one. What the hell do I know about raising a kid? Then you came barreling into my life.
Look, you don't have to.
No, listen, I do. I have made a lot of mistakes, kid. A lot. And, well, I am not a perfect man.
You're not proposing, are you, Sully? I mean, I love you, but...
Stop. Just stop being a wise ass for 1 second.
How long you been carrying that around?
Too long.
Thought I'd lost it.
Here's the thing, kid. We don't get to choose how we start in this life. Real greatness, it's what you do with the hand you dealt.
Hey.
Hey. Going somewhere?
Maybe. I'm really sorry about your ring.
It's all right. I swapped it for something better. Let's get out of here, huh?
Yeah.
Come on, we're this way. Come on. Trust me.
What are you up to?
No way. It's not as nice as the one you two wrecked 4 years ago, but it'll do. Come on. Let's see if I can remember how to fly the goddamn thing.
Hey, this has parachutes, right?
Oh, yeah. 3. More or less.
Unlike the first two games, this story is far less about the treasure itself and much more about Nathan Drake as a person. While Drake's fortune was mostly about finding El Dorado and Among Thieves focused on revenge, greed, and power, Uncharted 3 spends much more time exploring Nate's obsession with adventure, his identity, and what happens when that obsession begins hurting the people around him. This is probably the most personal story in the trilogy because almost every major relationship in Nate's life is tested. His friendship with Sully, his marriage with Elena, and even his partnership with Chloe and Cutter all become strained because Nate refuses to let go of the hunt. The deeper he gets into finding Aram the Pillars, the more reckless he becomes, and the more everyone around him starts questioning if any of this is even worth it anymore. Nate is far more obsessed here than he was in the previous games. In the earlier entries, his treasure hunting usually felt exciting and heroic, but here it feels destructive. He ignores warning signs over and over again. Even after Cutter breaks his leg, Nate keeps going. Even after Sully nearly dies multiple times, Nate keeps going. Even after Elena tells him that she's tired of the danger and wants to move on, Nate still keeps going. You can really see this through several different conversations throughout the game. Chloe's one of the first people to question Nate's motives. Once Cutter gets hurt and things start getting more dangerous, Chloe makes it clear that she thinks Nate is pushing too hard and risking too much for something that might not even be worth it anymore.
That was too close.
He'll be okay.
No, I mean the whole thing. Just isn't worth it, Nate. Let this one go.
Oh, no. You can't just give up. If you let these bastards win, after this, I will never bloody forgive you.
Don't you worry, Charlie. There's no way I'm letting them win.
What is it with you? What are you trying to prove?
I'm not trying to prove anything.
Right.
Sully also starts questioning Nate as the journey gets more dangerous. After escaping the burning chateau, Sully directly asks Nate if continuing this chase is really worth risking their lives over. Sully has always been the one willing to jump into danger with Nate, so seeing him hesitate says a lot about how serious things have become.
That was close, huh? You all right?
Oh, yeah. Just swell.
Here.
Just give me a sec. You always seem to forget. I got 25 years on you.
Come on, Sully. You're strong as an ox.
Anyway, what's the hurry? They think we're in that.
We almost were.
I gotta say, I'm losing the plot here. Remind me again why we're doing this?
No. If you're gearing up for one of your I'm too old for this speeches, spare me.
Nate, these guys are playing for keeps.
Yeah, so? What, you're just gonna roll over for them now?
Nobody's talking about rolling over.
Then quit acting like you're ready to lay down and die, all right?
Listen, kid. I've had you back for 20 years. I'm not going anywhere. Obviously. I just want to make sure we're doing this for the right reasons. You got your pride all tangled up in this thing. It's making you reckless. I taught you better than that. Gonna get yourself killed. Oh, damn. Hell. Probably get us all killed.
And then there's Elena, who probably understands Nate better than anyone else. Elena openly asks Nate why it can't just be enough to know where Ram is. As long as Marlowe never finds it, she sees that Nate no longer is chasing this because he has to. He's chasing this because he cannot let it go.
It's all in English.
Yeah. Yeah, it must have been Drake.
Okay, so let me get this straight. Drake sails thousands of miles looking for this Atlantis of the Sands. And when he gets this far, what he finds here is enough to make him turn around, sail home, and hide all evidence of his voyage.
Right.
But you're gonna keep going, aren't you?
Yeah?
And for what? For treasure? Sully, he listens to you. Please make him stop.
Yes, Sully, please, tackle me.
What is wrong with you two?
Elena, come on, we're just joking around.
Listen, you've won, okay? You've outsmarted her. You know where to find the city, and Marlowe doesn't. Why can't that be enough?
This is what makes Nate's obsession so important to the story. For maybe the first time in the series, the game stops treating Nate's obsession as something cool or heroic and starts treating it like a real flaw.
Not well. Okay. I could really use a glass of water, and then we ought to get going.
No. My contact at the airport says that the plane isn't taking off until dawn. In the meantime, just try to get a couple hours sleep.
I don't think that's a good idea.
Come on, all right? He'll call if anything changes.
You're really gonna do all this on your own, huh?
For Sully? Yeah.
I like the way you think.
I know.
No, I mean, that's...
I know what you mean.
I'm sorry.
I know.
Which is an interesting take, because if you look at the first game, Nate was ready to drop everything and leave, and Elena was the one that wanted to keep going. In this regard, Elena wants to drop everything and leave, but Nate keeps going.
Wait a minute, what was that?
What?
Rewind it.
Yeah?
Wait, stop.
Uh-huh.
Right there. That's our ticket out of here. Come on.
Our ticket out of here? Are you giving up?
Maybe you hadn't noticed, but we're kind of outnumbered.
We're doing fine so far. Oh, Lord.
Elena, I don't need your bullet-riddled corpse on my conscience. Let's go.
Oh, please. You quit if you want to, but don't use me as an excuse.
Fine. It's me, okay? I am quitting. Are you coming or not?
So that's it. You're just gonna forget about the treasure and forget about Drake?
God damn it, this is not worth dying over.
Okay. Okay. Listen, either way, we have to head back to the harbor. Don't worry about it. We can argue about it later. It'll be great.
Wait. This time, I drive.
Okay.
All right, what is all this
Seriously,
crap
Nate,
you're
why
giving
don't
me
you
about
just come play
Sully?
with me? Those guys are not here for historical research, and neither are you.
This is about that Marlowe woman, isn't it?
Yes, but look at this. I finally got it. And it's just like I said. That led to this. And this led us here.
To a hole in the ground.
Well, it's a glamorous life. Come on, admit it. You love all this as much as I do.
No. No, not anymore.
Really? Huh. Okay, well, why don't you just walk away?
Oh, me? Me walk away. That's funny.
One of the biggest themes in the story is learning how to let go. For years, Nate has built his entire identity around Francis Drake. He takes Drake's name, chases Drake's story, carries Drake's ring, and constantly puts himself in danger because of this fantasy that he is somehow connected to is larger than legacy. And that fantasy really starts in a Cartagena flashback. As a kid, Nate is fascinated by Francis Drake and sees the ring almost like it's proof that he belongs to something bigger. To young Nate, the ring is not just an artifact, it's an adventure, it's a mystery. It's the idea that he's destined for something greater than the life he currently has.
Whoa.
That ring becomes symbolic of everything. Nate spends his life chasing adventure, treasure, danger, and the fantasy of being Nathan Drake. But the problem is that fantasy starts costing him the real things that matter. It isn't until he believes he's lost Sully that everything starts changing in his mind. By the end of the game, Nate is fully forced to choose between Drake's legacy and the people he loves. When Marlowe sinks into the quicksand holding Francis Drake's ring, Nate lets it go. And maybe for the first time in the series, he stops chasing the fantasy.
Nathan! Drake! Are you worthy of the name? Earn this, as Francis earned it from Elizabeth. Prove your greatness.
I got nothing to prove.
Hurry! Give me a hand! You can't just let her die! The hell he can't! Nate, give me your goddamn hand! Here! Grab it! What the hell are you doing?
I can't.
It's no good! Get the hell out of there! Hold on! No! Nate! No!
That moment becomes even stronger at the ending of the game, because after losing Francis Drake's ring, Nate reveals that he's wearing his wedding ring again.
I'm really sorry about your ring.
It's all right. I swapped it for something better. Let's get out of here, huh?
Yeah.
This is what makes that moment so powerful. Francis Drake's ring represents obsession, danger, fantasy, and the adventure Nate has been chasing his entire life. But the wedding ring represents maturity, commitment, reality, and the life that Nate already has with Elena. By the end of the game, Nate is no longer choosing the fantasy, he is choosing Elena. Another major reason the story works so well is because this is the first game that fully explains why Sully matters so much to Nate. Before this, we knew Sully was important, but Uncharted 3 is the first time we actually see how that relationship started. The Cartagena flashback shows that Sully immediately sees something special in Nate. Even though Nate is still just a kid, Sully is impressed by how smart he is, how quick he is, and how easily he can steal from people.
Crap! Suélteme, viejo!
Let's try that again.
Let go of me.
Ah, that's what I thought. Now don't try to run. You're a long way from home, son.
Don't call me that.
Parents must be worried about you.
Yeah, not likely.
Okay, sore subject. That was a nice lift back there. You're pretty good.
I don't know what you're talking about, old man.
Hey, don't call me that. Your technique is really sloppy, though. You're telegraphing all your moves.
You're crazy.
Yeah? You've been tailing me all over town. Probably figured me for an easy mark. But you picked the wrong guy, pal.
What?
My wallet. Fine. Maybe we'll just call the police.
Go ahead. Of course, they might wonder why a middle-aged tourist is following young boys down alleyways.
You are a crafty little beggar, aren't you?
I know how to take care of myself. Anyway, I'm pretty sure you don't like the cops any more than I do.
Good point. Kid. The wallet.
Had to try.
Of course you did.
Sully becomes more than just a partner. He becomes Nate's father figure. He protects Nate from Marlowe and her men, helps him escape, and gives him someone to look up to. That's why Sully being in danger throughout the story feels so personal. Nate is not just chasing treasure at that point. He's trying to save the one person who has always been there for him.
Oh, thank God. You all right? Man, I had a hell of a time. What's the matter with you?
How do I know you're real? Ow!
That real enough for you? Don't ever point a gun at me again.
I saw them shoot you. Right after the eclipse.
What? What eclipse? Look, kid, you went nuts right after you drank from that fountain. It's the water. That's what destroyed the city. Not the wrath of God.
Now we look at the villain. Catherine Marlowe is one of the more interesting villains in the series because she's not just another person looking for treasure. She's basically what Nate could become if he completely gave into his obsession. Both Nate and Marlowe are obsessed with history. Both are fascinated by secrets and lost civilizations. Both are willing to drag other people into danger to get what they want. The difference is that Nate eventually learns to let go. Marlowe never does. That's what makes her such a strong villain for the story, because she's not just standing in Nate's way, she's acting like a mirror for him. Amy Hennig even talked about how the team wanted Marlowe to challenge Nate in a completely different way than the villains from the previous games. Instead of being another loud and violent villain, Marlowe was a much more calm, intelligent, and manipulative one.
Nate, just who are we dealing with here?
Working on the third outing in a series, you have to think about, how are you changing things up? And you want to do it in ways that are meaningful, but sometimes you arrive at them in ways that are sort of simple and obvious. And one of the things that immediately occurred to us is it'd be more interesting to see a female antagonist this time.
Same cocky little shit. So fearless. I wonder what you're really afraid of.
And it'd be more interesting to have a antagonist who was more cerebral and therefore challenged Drake in different ways.
You get off on all this, don't you? Cheating death.
It's a very different character to try to write. It's actually a much harder character to try to write, and then it was a much harder character to cast. And thank God we found Rosalind Ayers, because she brought something really unusual, I think, to the character.
I'm sorry, Nathan. It seems you've been removed from the equation.
It's been a lot of fun to have a female villain, and she's kind of wicked.
Catherine!
She gets into your head, and she wants to know what makes you tick, and she wants to know what you're afraid of, and she'll find out.
But she's also, like, sweet, and it's very unnerving in a good way. That's I think what makes her a good villain is that she's prim and proper and wicked.
Yes, it is regrettable, but
not regrettable.
Marlowe constantly gets into Nate's head throughout the game. She questions what he's really afraid of. She calls out the fact that Nate enjoys cheating death. And more than anyone else in the story, she understands how obsession controls him. That's why Marlowe works so well. She's not just trying to beat Nate physically. She's trying to understand him, manipulate him, and expose the parts of himself that he does not want to face.
I don't recommend making a scene. You're not exactly here legally, remember? Greatness from small beginnings. Beneath that cocky exterior, you're still the same scared, filthy little runaway, aren't you?
Skip the mind games. You don't know me.
In fact, I suspect I know you better than anyone, Mr. Drake. Of course, that's not your real name, is it? But we won't dwell on that. Mother commits suicide. Father surrenders son to the state at the age of 5. Entrusted to the St. Francis Boys' Home. It's also Dickensian. Oh. Don't worry. She's of no interest to us. Unless, of course, we need to apply a little pressure.
What do you want from me?
Well, as much as it pains me to admit it, I need your help to find Victor Sullivan.
Right.
We already know he has the coordinates to find Iran.
How do you know that?
You told us, Nathan. It seems your loyalty isn't as firm as you'd like to think it is. What about his?
What? Wait. What are you trying to pull?
Nothing. It's just that, well, we've had you in our clutches for quite some time now, and he hasn't exactly mounted a rescue. He didn't rescue you back in Cartagena either. He just saw something he could exploit.
I know what you're trying to do.
Trust me. Victor is only ever in it for Victor. It's a cold, hard fact. I discovered it 20 years ago. I'm surprised it's taken you this long to figure it out.
You're wasting your time, lady.
Fair enough. But ask yourself, when he scooped you off the streets of Colombia 20 years ago, did he save you from that life? Or did he just doom you to this one? Ah, excellent. Well, we've located Sullivan on the other side of the city. I'm sorry, Nathan. It seems you've been removed from the equation.
Now, one of the biggest criticisms surrounding Uncharted 3 is that while the game has some of the best individual moments in the series, a lot of players felt like those moments did not always connect together as naturally as they did in Among Thieves. A major reason for that is because Uncharted 3 often feels like it was built around set pieces first and then the story second. You could tell the developers had these huge moments that they wanted in the game. The burning chateau, the cargo plane sequence, the sinking ship cruise, the horse chase in the desert, the sandstorm, and most importantly, the lost city. And while all those moments are incredible individually, sometimes a story has to bend over backwards just to get Nate to the next big action sequence. That's why some players felt the game jumped around too much. 1 minute, you're in London, then France, then Syria, then Yemen, then on a cruise ship, then in the desert. Compared to Among Thieves, which moved at a more natural pace, Uncharted 3 can feel much more like stop and go because it's constantly rushing to the next big moment. Another issue some players had is that the game does not always give you enough time to breathe in between those moments. Uncharted 2 was really good at slowing down after a major action sequence and giving the player quiet moments to explore and talk to characters, or just take in the atmosphere. Uncharted 3 does not always do that. For example, after the cruise ship sinks and Nate survives the desert, the game almost immediately throws you into another huge combat sequence in the ghost town. Likewise, the boat graveyard section is visually impressive, but it takes a long time and does not really move the story forward in any major way. Because of that, some players feel like certain chapters existed more because developers wanted another big action sequence rather than because the story truly needed it. Another point of criticism at times is Marlowe herself. While I personally think she worked really well thematically because she mirrors Nate's obsession, I can understand why some players found her underwhelming compared to Lazarevich in Among Thieves. Lazarevich immediately feels dangerous because he's constantly present, constantly violent, and feels like a physical threat to Nate from start to finish. Marlowe, she's more subtle. She's more manipulative, more psychological, and more focused on getting inside Nate's head. For some players, that made her more interesting. For others, that made her less threatening. That also carries over into her ending. Instead of having a major boss fight like Lazarevich, the climax with Talbot relies much more on scripted moments and quick-time events. So for some players, the ending can feel less satisfying from a gameplay perspective. Another criticism is that Uncharted 3 sometimes feels like it's replaying the same ideas from Uncharted 2. Both games build towards a lost city. Both games feature a supernatural substance that drives people insane. Both games end with Nate hallucinating. Both games involve villains trying to harness some kind of ancient power. And because Uncharted 2 did those things first, most players felt Uncharted 3 played things a little too safe. At the same time though, I do think it's important to remember the situation Naughty Dog was in. During development, the studio had split teams. One half the company is working on Uncharted 3, while the other half began work on The Last of Us. That meant Amy Hennig was essentially carrying the huge amount of the creative direction for Uncharted 3 during an extremely tight development cycle. Unlike The Last of Us, which had around 4 years of development time, Uncharted 3 had to be made in roughly 2 years while still trying to top one of the most beloved games of its generation. That is an almost impossible task. So while I do think the story can feel messy in places, I also think Amy Hennig and the team did the best they could under a ton of pressure. Because even if Uncharted 3 is not as tightly paced or as original as Uncharted 2, it still succeeds at telling one of the most personal stories in the entire series. At the end of the day, Uncharted 3 really does feel like the middle child of the franchise. It lives in the shadow of Among Thieves because that game is often seen as a fan favorite. It also gets overshadowed by A Thief's End because that game takes so many of these same ideas about obsession, aging, and letting go, but explores them in an even deeper way. Because of that, Uncharted 3 is often the game that people skip over when talking about the series. But even with all its flaws, I think the game still deserves a lot more credit. It may not be as tightly paced as Uncharted 2, and it may not be as emotionally complete as Uncharted 4, but it sits right in the middle and bridges these two games together perfectly. It gives us some of the best action set pieces in the series, some of the strongest Sully and Nate moments, and one of the most personal stories Naughty Dog had told up to that point. And while it may not always get the respect of the other entries, Uncharted 3 is still an important chapter in Nathan Drake's story because it's the first time the series really forces him to confront who he is, what he's chasing, and whether any of it is truly worth it. From a gameplay standpoint, Uncharted 3 follows the if it ain't broke, don't fix it approach. If you ever play Uncharted 2, then you already know what to expect here. You're still climbing walls, scaling ledges, jumping across rooftops, solving puzzles, hanging off moving objects, and getting in those giant shootouts every few minutes. And honestly, the formula still works here. The platforming feels just as cinematic as before, and there's a much bigger variety in the environments this time around. One minute you're climbing across rooftops in London, the next you're platforming through a burning chateau, then later hanging off a sinking cruise ship, riding horses through the desert, and climbing through a cargo plane thousands of feet in the air. That variety is one of the biggest strengths in the game because it constantly makes the player feel like they're in a huge action movie. Combat also got expanded compared to the previous games. Nate has more melee options now, including contextual attacks based on the environment around him. You can throw enemies into walls, over ledges, into furnitures, or use objects in the area during fistfights. The hand-to-hand combat feels much more cinematic and chaotic than before, especially when multiple enemies rush you at once. The game also gives you a few gameplay options, like being able to throw grenades back at enemies if you time it correctly. Honestly, that's one of those features that feels like it should have been in the series from the very beginning. Gunplay is still solid too. You can carry 2 weapons at once just like last time, swap them with weapons on the ground, throw grenades, line fire from cover, and shoot while moving. The game still has that fast-paced arcade-style shooting that the series is known for. That said, I do think the aiming feels a little bit off compared to the second game. There are moments where the controls do not feel quite as smooth, especially when trying to line up headshots quickly. The camera can also get a little weird in tight areas, which can definitely lead to a few cheap deaths. Stealth also returns, but honestly doesn't feel as nearly as useful as it did in Uncharted 2 Among Thieves. You could sneak up on enemies, take them down quietly, or drop on them from above, but a lot of the time, the game eventually forces you into a giant firefight anyway. So, while stealth is there, it doesn't always feel like a real option. Puzzles are still a big part of the experience too. A lot of them revolve around using Nate's journal to solve riddles, line up symbols, or activate hidden mechanisms. Some of them can definitely be annoying at times, but if you made it through the puzzles in Uncharted 2, then these shouldn't be that bad. Visually, the game was unbelievable for 2011. The graphics are easily one of the best on the PS3. The deserts, cities, caves, ship graveyards, and ancient ruins all look incredible, and the amount of detail in the environments is honestly ridiculous. Character animations are also much more lifelike here because of the improved motion capture. Even small things like the way Nate walks up the stairs or stumbles while exhausted feel way more natural than they did in earlier games. The sound design is also fantastic. The soundtrack does a great job of making everything feel cinematic, and the voice acting is great as always. One noticeable improvement is the guns. In the first 2 games, a lot of weapons sounded kind of weak, but they have much more punch to them now. Uncharted 3 also brought back multiplayer. Like the second game, it included both competitive and co-op modes, but Naughty Dog clearly tried to make it bigger this time around. There were more customization options, character skins, weapon modifications, unlockable boosters, split screen support, and even dynamic events during matches. The co-op mode was probably the standout because it let players team up and fight classic villains from the earlier games like Raja, Flynn, and Lazarevich. The multiplayer was definitely fun, especially during the beta era, but it still felt more like an extra mode rather than the main attraction. Most people were playing Uncharted for the story, not necessarily for the online. Overall, the gameplay in Uncharted 3 is not drastically different than the second game, but it does enough to keep things fresh. It may not reinvent the wheel, but between the stronger melee combat, improved transversal, incredible set pieces, and gorgeous visuals, it still delivers one of the most cinematic gameplay experiences of the PS3 era. Uncharted 3 Drake's Deception originally released on the Sony PlayStation 3 on November 1st, 2011. At the time, it was one of the best looking games on the entire system. The game ran at 720p and targeted 30 frames per second, which was a standout for most big consoles back then. Even on the PS3, the game looked incredible. The desert environments, ship graveyard, burning chateau, and sandstorm sequence were all massive technical showcases for the hardware. The character animations also look much more lifelike compared to the previous games thanks to improved motion capture and facial animation. For a lot of people, Uncharted 3 was one of those games that really showed what the PS3 could do late in its life cycle. In 2015, Uncharted 3 was remastered for the PlayStation 4 as part of Uncharted, the Nathan Drake collection. This version keeps the exact same story, level design, and gameplay, but cleans up the presentation quite a bit. The biggest improvement is the frame rate. While the PS3 version ran at 30 frames per second, the PS4 version runs at 60 frames per second. The higher frame rate makes movement, aiming, climbing, and combat feel much smoother overall. The PS4 version also increases the resolution from 720 to 1080p, making the game look sharper and cleaner on modern TVs. There are also smaller improvements to the texture filtering, anti-aliasing, lighting, shadows, and post-processing effects. The differences are there, but compared to the first two games, Uncharted 3 probably has the smallest visual leap between the PS3 and the PS4 versions because the original PS3 release already looks so good. Still, if you're playing the game today, the PS4 version is definitely the better version to play. The smoother frame rate alone makes a huge difference, especially during the bigger action sequences and firefights. One thing that's missing, though, is the original multiplayer. The PS4 remaster only includes single-player campaigns, meaning all of the online content from the PS3 version was left behind. At the end of the day, the PlayStation 4 version is probably the most practical way to play Uncharted 3 because of the smoother frame rates per second gameplay, sharper visuals, and overall cleaner presentation. But at the same time, I have nothing against anyone still playing on older hardware. The original PS3 version still looks great, still plays well, and for a lot of people, there's something special about experiencing the game on the hardware it was originally built for. Before the game even launched, Drake Deception had an unbelievable amount of hype behind it. The game made a huge impression at E3 2011, where it received nominations for Best Show, Best Console Game, Best Action Adventure Game, and Best Online Multiplayer Game. Many outlets walked away calling it the best PS3 game at the event, with companies like IGN, GameSpot, Game Informer, and 1UP praising its visuals, scales, and cinematic presentation. At the time, it felt like this was going to be the game that defined the PS3's final years. Critically, the game was a massive success. On Metacritic, the game holds a 92 out of 100, making it one of the highest rated games of 2011. Reviewers constantly praise the visuals, motion capture, acting, soundtrack, and set pieces. A lot of critics described it as one of the closest things gaming had ever gotten to a blockbuster movie. The cruise ship sequence, the cargo plane level, and the desert sections were constantly highlighted as some of the most impressive moments ever seen in a game at the time. Many critics also praised the character writing, especially the chemistry between Nathan Drake and Victor Sullivan. Reviewers felt the performances gave the game a more emotional core than most action games at the time. IGN gave the game a perfect score and called it an experience, a complete package, while PlayStation Official Magazine said it was not only one of the biggest games on the PS3, but one of the best games ever made. Even critics who preferred the second game still admitted that Uncharted 3 was one of the most technically impressive games of its generation. That being said, not everyone thought it surpassed among these. Some reviewers felt the game did not quite reach the same level of pacing, originality, or narrative focus as its predecessor. Critics from outlets like Eurogamer argued that while the game was visually stunning, it could sometimes feel too narrow or overly scripted. Others felt the story was not as tightly put together as Uncharted 2, with some pointing out to the villains, the pacing, and the over-reliance of giant set pieces. One of the biggest complaints from players at launch was actually the aiming system. Some players felt the gunplay was too loose or imprecise compared to previous games. The backlash became large enough that Naughty Dog eventually released a patch that let players switch aiming controls that were closer to Uncharted 2. That fix ended up satisfying a lot of players who had issues with the shooting. Commercially, the game was another huge success. It sold around 700,000 copies in the United States during November 2011 alone. It became one of the best-selling PS3 exclusives ever and shipped 3.8 million copies worldwide on launch day. By 2019, the game has sold over 9 million copies worldwide, making it one of the biggest games in the franchise. It also doubled the first week sales of Uncharted 2, showing just how big the series had become by 2011. When it came to the Game Awards, the game cleaned house. It won Best PS3 Game at the Spike Video Game Awards, earned Game of the Year awards from several outlets, and picked up awards for graphics, story, sound, voice acting, and animation. Nolan North was also heavily praised for his performance as Nathan Drake. Even years later, people still look back at Uncharted 3 as one of the defining games of the PS3 era. Being honest, I really like this game, but at the same time, I wish we could have had more from it. One of my favorite things about Drake's Deception is it almost feels like Nate finally has a real crew around him. You got Chloe, Cutter, Sully, and Elena, all playing major roles, and it honestly made me wish we could have gotten more adventures with this group together. It almost felt like Nate had his own gang, and I would have loved to see a future game where everyone stayed together longer. You could have almost had this Drake's 5, Ocean's 11 type game, or even something similar to a Sly Cooper style team dynamic where each character had their own role in the adventure. At the same time, I still respect what this game accomplished. This was a game made under a massive amount of crunch on a very tight schedule, while Naughty Dog was splitting its resources between Uncharted and what would become The Last of Us. Even with all that pressure, they still delivered one of the most technically impressive games of the entire PS3 era. The plane sequence, the cruise ship, the desert, the visuals, the soundtrack, all of it still feels magical even to this day. That's why I really do see this game as the middle child in the original trilogy. It's not as beloved as Uncharted 2, and it doesn't have the emotional finality of Uncharted 4, but it still matters. It's the swan song of the PS3 era of Uncharted, and honestly, it's the swan song for a lot of developers during that era who were trying to push the hardware as far as it can go before the next generation arrived. This game may not always get the same amount of love as others, but I still think it deserves respect because without it, the series would not be what it would become later on. If you made it to the end of this video, first, I want to say thank you. I know I'm a bit of a week late and I'm still trying to structure a good schedule around drops, but I hope this video was still up to your liking. If you enjoyed it and you want to support the channel, the best way is by liking the video. If you want to stay up to date on all my latest uploads, where next week we're covering The Last of Us and then Uncharted 4, hitting that subscribe button will keep you up to date on all my latest uploads in the pipeline. And lastly, if you're feeling generous, you can always buy me a cup of coffee. The link is in the description. With that said, this is the Retro Phantom, signing out.